Okay, picking up where we left off, we're on page 88, talking about the different types of techniques you can have under Agile. Another one is called a Rational Unified Process, RUP. And it's an iterative system, it's team-based, and it's basically well-designed if you're just building small components on something. In other words, you're not necessarily building the whole thing, but you're building, I don't know, this one little piece that does something, and this other little piece that does something. It's great for doing integration of individual components. Another one is called Six Sigma. This is kind of a term that's been around for quite some time, borrowed from the manufacturing industry. And the idea is that, I'm building a car or a coffee table, doesn't matter what it is, and I'm building the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Then I can get a little better at tweaking the machines and tweaking the processes to make the quality a little better. And the idea is that if you're doing projects over and over and over, then you can slowly get better at, our cost estimates were pretty off. What went wrong? And so you kind of tweak it and tweak it and tweak it so your time estimates get better, your cost estimates get better. It does take an awful lot of repetition to get this to work. So if you're only doing like one or two projects or you don't do them very frequently, then perhaps Six Sigma isn't the tool for you. So how do you choose between all these things? We have the traditional approach, the predictive approach, and then you have all these other types of approaches and sub-approaches under Agile. So how do you determine which one am I supposed to use? Well, to tell you the truth, it's kind of a tough question. And a lot of it has to do with the way the organization is kind of built, which way your organization leans. If you're in a very tight organization, with tight control, tall, steep, not flat, then you're probably not going to want to do one of the wishy-washy kinds of things. You're going to go through one of the procedures, which is pretty straightforward. So you might want to use, Prince or RUP, one of those kinds of guys. If, on the other hand, the quality of the product is so important, you're trying to make, this is going to be your halo product that you're making for your organization. It's going to have every feature humanly imaginable, and it's going to be the super duper thing. You may not be selling an awful lot of them, but it's going to be the top of the line, whatever it is you're building. Well, then maybe you want to go Agile because you really want the wow factor. It doesn't matter how long it takes. I mean, if you said it was going to take 6 months and ended up taking a year, that's okay. So it's kind of, see the kind of the thinking? So, specific projects that you're working on. Is it something that you're doing over and over again? Well, maybe Six Sigma. Is it component based? Okay, maybe RUP. What is your experience in using these things? There's a cool little discussion on page 88 where they basically say that those people who have a lot of experience in these things have an 89% success rate for their projects. That's pretty cool. And then he goes on to explain that if you don't have experience in these things, you're probably going to have a lot lower success rates. Okay. So now we're ready to start the case study. So this is the same case study that I presume you did read. And it's going to be shown to you in two different ways. The first one is going to be the more structured approach. Just the plain old structured approach, the predictive approach. And then we're going to go through that entire process, and when we're done, we're going to do that same project over again using Agile and Scrum. Okay, so on page 89, we'll start. So this is the predictive waterfall approach, okay? So we have a pre-initiation phase, okay? Pre-initiation phase is basically the selection process on what it is you're going to work on. I wouldn't really call that a phase of the project because you don't really have a project yet. So what most organizations have, I ran a shop similar. I ran a productivity improvement shop, and we had a list of all the people. Turns in, we polled the people and said, "Hey, what projects do you want?" And so they gave us a big laundry list. Well, there's no way we could do them all. Okay, it was huge. It had 100 items on the list. So what we had to do is go through the list and say, "Aha, that one looks interesting. Ooh, that one has a lot of potential for improvement or productivity." So we went through and picked those things and tried to prioritize the list because we knew there was no way we could do them all. So there's probably, in this scenario, there's probably a pool of projects to pick from. All right. So you know you can't do them all, so you might as well find the ones that are of interest, particularly, well, you know, interest. Maybe a better way of looking at it is more productivity. So, two things to look out for when you're trying to pick one of these projects. One is, which ones of these are more easily defined by the strategic goal? What is a strategic plan for your organization? What is you're trying to do? I'm trying to break into the Chinese market, or whatever your strategic plan is. Which one of those projects, you know, tries to promote that goal? So that would be a good way to pick which ones you're going to do, which ones you're not going to do. Which ones support the business, the tactical business objectives. Like, okay, I need to make more profit in this area, or we need to shed this business, or whatever it is you're trying to do in the short term. So again, it's all about business. Which ones are long-term, short-term goals kind of align. Again, there's this buzz phrase that I like, and that is, you know, there must be a valid business reason for doing something. So, you know, I tell this story a lot, and that is, you know, somebody comes running into the office, hey, the new version of Office just came out. When are we going to upgrade? And the business manager says, so what's the business case? You know, what's the advantage to me to upgrade? And it's like, well, it's new. Well, I'm sorry, it's new is not a valid business reason. I need a valid business reason to do something. Okay, cool. All right. So, common tasks that occur at this part is determining the scope, time, and cost constraints. Remember the little triad, the little triangle thing? Trying to come up with those to find out. And again, you're trying to figure these things out to see if this is even a viable project. I mean, you really need to know what the cost constraints are and the time constraints. Because, for example, I don't know, you're doing something and you say, okay, we're going to work on this project. It's going to take us 6 years to do. And everybody goes, 6 years? No way. Okay, that one goes to the bottom of the list. We're going to pick out these short wins. So, identifying a project sponsor. Remember, the project sponsor is the guy who has the weight to be able to call a meeting and everyone will show up. Okay, so project sponsor. You're probably going to also pick a project manager at this point. You go, hey, Bob, you want to take on another project? Sure. So Bob's now the project manager. You're probably going to develop the business case. Remember the justification for doing this. Again, I've kind of harped on that before, but there's got to be a valid reason for doing this. You don't just do projects for the hell of it. There's got to be a valid reason. And they're probably going to have a preliminary meeting with the key folks. I wouldn't necessarily call them stakeholders at this point because you haven't really determined who the stakeholders are, but you can kind of sort of guess. You know, this is like your first guess. Having a meeting saying, okay, it looks like we're going to work on this project. We haven't really decided yet, but this looks like a really cool project, and I think it's going to affect you guys and you guys and you guys. Everybody agree? And, you know, that kind of stuff, a preliminary meeting. Another thing you can do at this pre-stage is lumping and splitting. I have a project and it's way too big, so I'm going to split it in half. We're going to do this part and then this part. Let's say somebody comes in and says, I think we need to come up with a new enterprise resource management plan that does everything, you know, soup to nuts. It does inventory, it does payroll, it does everything. And you're going, oh, geez, that's going to take forever. But if I broke it up into chunks, let's do the payroll piece, let's do the inventory piece, let's do the manufacturing piece. So sometimes you want to split projects up. Likewise, you're looking through the pool of potential projects and you go, you know, these two are kind of sort of related. We can lump those together and get some efficiencies. So that's one of the things you do at this stage is lump or split. So the business case for this particular example is kind of simple because it's an internal website. If you read the case study, an internal website just to help productivity of your own folks. So it's, if you look at table 3-2 on page 91 and 93, and read it on your own. You can pause the video now, read through this business case, and come back when you're done. Okay, you done? All right. So the first real one of these things is initiating. That was all pre-initiating. So on page 94, they have the real honest to God initiating. where you're probably going to do two major things. You're going to identify the stakeholders, and you're going to develop a project charter. And the charter is basically no more than, here's what it is we're trying to do, and here's the resources we're going to be doing, and blah, blah, blah. It's not a complex document. It's basically like if you were, I don't know, a special prosecutor for the FBI, you'd have a charter saying, here's what we want you to do, and we really want you to stay inside your lane here. So we kind of give you some boundaries on left and right to kind of help you. Otherwise, you might wander off and do other things that we don't necessarily want you to do. So here's where you're going to develop the stakeholder register. So you're going to meet with the sponsor. You're going to find out, who it is it's going to be. There's an entire table here of the stakeholder register. What the guy's name is, what their position is. Whether they're internal, external to your own company. By the way, for example, these guys, if you read the case study, when they put together their list of members for the team, they actually went out and got external consultants. In a typical environment, not necessarily a website development one, but you might want to go in and grab suppliers, or maybe even some of your major customers to come in and sit on the team. So they're not all going to be your folks. And then here's your sponsor, here's your project manager, here's teams, and here's honest to God advisors. So you're going to need to come up with this list, the stakeholder register, to basically explains where everything goes. Okay, cool. So I mentioned that the list could include will include your internal working people, but you could have some external folks. Now the external folks probably won't meet like on a daily basis like the other guys, or weekly basis. They'll be called in from time to time, right? Because this business analyst or whoever this is for like webpage probably would pop in every once in a while, but certainly not going to be at the same level of activity as some of the others. Okay, so this is a kind of an interesting way of looking at it. This is their project plan. Again, this is kind of an eye chart here, so look in the book. So basically what we've done is we put together a charter. And so this is our charter. We're going to do this project. And by the way, make no illusions about what you call things, okay? You can the name of the project actually matters. You can't just come out and say, well, this is going to be the such and such project. It's going to have a catchy name, perhaps a pronounceable acronym, something that sounds kind of cool, sounds kind of sexy. Trust me, when you're putting together projects, you don't want to come out with, accounts receivable improvement project. Like, okay, wow, that sounds interesting. I'd like to volunteer for that one. It's going to have to be something kind of cool. All right, now back to the topic. So, bottom line is that project charter includes, what you're going to do, who the people are, and there's some signature blocks at the bottom that basically says, we signed off and we're ready to rock and roll. Okay. There's another thing you talk about, and that's what they call the stakeholder analysis. Now, quite frankly, I've never, ever done this in real life. I would be scared to do this in real life. But if you look on the page, one of the things they talk about is a separate listing basically showing like the level of interest that the person has and what their level of influence is over the project. Ew. Personality traits. Wow, I am not going to put that on a piece of paper. Whew. No way. Anyway, project charter. The next is a kickoff meeting, and you can read that one on your own too. The kickoff meeting is basically one of those things where, I don't think I have that, do I? Yeah, I do. Here we go. Here, the kickoff meeting, and it's basically, I'm getting ready to have my first meeting, and here's all the things, and this is also an important thing is if you have something that you decided to do in the meeting, somebody says, yeah, it's a great idea, we should do that. You need to record this, assign it to a person, and I'll tell you a cool story when we get back.